Walk into a Harley dealership today and something feels off. Rows of chrome touring bikes sit silent. Price tags crossed out, markdowns rewritten, salesmen pacing more than selling. This isn't a dip, it's a flood. And the worst part? It didn't happen by accident. In this video, we're digging into what really triggered the crash, why it's hitting veteran riders hardest, and what you need to know before buying, trading, or even riding your next mile. Because something big just broke, and it started inside the factory. The rows no one can hide walk into any dealership right now, and the silence tells the truth. Chrome glints under the fluorescent lights, row after row of like-new Harleys lined up like soldiers waiting for orders that never come. Dust gathers on tanks that should be warm from the road. Price tags dangle, marked down, crossed out, rewritten again in smaller numbers. Out back, the overflow lot stretches farther than the fence line. Bikes covered with tarps, some still showing stickers from last spring. The same models repeat down the row. Road Kings, Street Glides, Heritage Classics. Every one of them spotless, low mileage, and going nowhere. Online, the story repeats. A 2023 Road King that once fetched 25 grand now floods listings. 200 in a week, most under 15. Same colors, same captions, same desperate tone. The classifieds read like confessionals. Too many bikes, too few buyers, too much wishful thinking. For riders like Mike, who remember Harleys vanishing in a weekend, it's unreal. This isn't a slow slide, it's a flood. Dealers won't say it on record, but their eyes do. The market didn't cool, it crashed overnight, leaving one question echoing through every garage. Where did all these machines come from? But the flood wasn't a freak storm. It didn't blow in from nowhere. It was planned mile by mile inside the factories long before these bikes hit the ground. Overbuilt, undersold inside the plants, the machines never stopped humming. Even as orders slowed, the welding sparks kept falling. Production lines kept running because stopping them cost more than building bikes no one ordered. Supplier contracts had minimums carved in ink. If Harley bought fewer parts than promised, penalties followed. A manager in Wisconsin put it plain: it's cheaper to keep building than to break a deal. So they kept building. Quarterly shipment targets were locked in, promises made to investors who demanded growth. Missing them would signal weakness, so marketing called it inventory discipline. On the floor, workers called it stacking steel. Frames rolled with no buyers, tagged for warehouses instead of roads. Pallets wrapped in plastic-filled spaces once meant for motion. The hum of progress masking denial. Pride kept hands busy. No crew wanted to admit demand had cracked. These were veterans of American craftsmanship, welding through uncertainty, hoping spring sales would save them. But hope doesn't pay freight. By quarter's end, dealers pleaded for relief as trucks kept coming, unloading into showrooms already packed. What looked like success on paper became paralysis in real life. And once those crates left the plant, another clock started ticking, the one dealers dread most. The silent meter that turns shiny inventory into expensive debt. If you've seen the same thing happening at your local dealer, hit that like button and drop a comment below. Tell us what prices or trends you're seeing firsthand. The floor plan clock. Most riders never hear the phrase floor plan interest, but every dealer lives by it. Nearly every new Harley sitting on a showroom floor isn't paid for yet, it's financed. The dealer borrows money to keep it there, betting that a sale will cover the cost before the interest eats the margin. Each day that passes, that borrowed bike costs more. Picture one touring Harley wholesaling at $20,000. A few percent in interest seems harmless until 90 days turns it into hundreds per bike. Thousands across a 50-unit floor. Managers juggle rebates and bonuses, then desperation discounts. The joke says calendars sell more bikes than salesmen. End-of-month pushes turn frantic as banks keep charging. Mike's seen it all. Trucks in the 80s, sleds in the 90s. The math never lies. When inventory outruns demand, time bleeds profit. Across Harley's network, every unsold machine is a ticking clock, each second louder than the last, counting down to red ink. But the real price of these machines isn't written on the tag hanging from the handlebar. It's struck under a gavel, far from public view, where dealers trade among themselves just to keep the lights on. Auction gravity. Every Friday morning in warehouses from Ohio to Nevada, the real market for motorcycles reveals itself. These aren't glossy showrooms or YouTube promos. They're cold concrete lanes where dealers buy and sell to one another. Engines start, rev once, and roll across the block. A man with a clipboard calls the numbers. Each strike of the hammer resets reality. Last year, a clean touring Harley with under 10,000 miles might have fetched 12 grand at wholesale. This year, lanes are struggling to clear 8. Once enough bikes sell that low, the retail prices back home have to follow. No dealer can float above that gravity for long. When the lane averages drop, every Road Glide, every Heritage, every Softail on the floor suddenly feels heavier. Auctioneers call it finding the floor. Dealers call it panic. 5 years of depreciation just slammed into one season, and even the sharpest sellers can't outrun the math. Buyers watch auctions live, spotting the same bikes return unsold, shattering the illusion of rarity. Private owners feel it next. Trade offers drop thousands. Badges once symbolizing pride now guarantee markdowns. The hammer doesn't just set prices, it erases myths. Executives preach resilience, but dealers whisper survival. Every lane clearing under 10 grand pulls the whole network lower, one bid at a time, until pride itself feels priced out. And then paper rules turned into cash penalties on the showroom. The fallout had begun, and for riders like Mike, this wasn't just a market correction, it was the sound of an industry losing its balance. Retail soft, shipments, stubborn numbers never lie, but they rarely tell the full story at first glance. In the first half of 2025, industry reports showed motorcycle retail sales down nearly 20% compared to the same period a year earlier. Yet production lines stayed steady, shipping almost identical volumes. The result was predictable. Dealer lots filled faster than they emptied. To the casual buyer, it looks like opportunity. To an analyst like Mark Jensen, who has tracked Harley's market since the 90s, it looks like a classic case of optimism outrunning reality. Charts on Jensen's desk tell the story. Retail sales falling, factory shipments climbing, and the gap, inventory, widening fast. For every bike sold, to fill storage, straining financing, space, and resale. Investor calls still promise normalization, but insiders whisper the truth. Demand's not pausing, it's shrinking. Buyer ages climb, new riders vanish, and high rates kill impulse buys. Pre-sold stock keeps arriving, choking pipelines built for balance, not overflow. On paper, it's stability. In driveways, value melts like spring snow. Optimism met reality head-on, and the timing turned fatal for anyone still betting on momentum. And that's before the vine itself starts taxing your wallet. The Vine Divide. Every Harley has a story hidden in 17 characters stamped on its neck. Most riders never notice those numbers beyond the year and model, but inside that, Vine lies a truth few dealerships want to discuss. Two identical motorcycles, same paint, same trim, same engine, can land on opposite sides of a pricing canyon because of where they were built. Finance manager Carla Ruiz keeps a cheat sheet in her desk. A laminated chart showing origin codes and the tariffs attached to each one. "You'd be surprised how often I have to explain this," she says. One bike assembled in Wisconsin, another from the overseas plant. Same model, but import duties and freight charges add anywhere from $800 to $2,000 before we even talk profit. The buyers stare at her like she's joking, until she prints the comparison right off the invoice. These costs aren't new, but falling prices make them impossible to hide. Dealers can't bury freight or tariff gaps in margins anymore. Riders now compare VN prefixes, using forms that decode which letters mean home-built or imported. For Harley, the irony bites. The brand once tied to American craftsmanship now sees origin. Codes steering resale. Domestic VINs move. Imports linger. Even small tariff shifts decide deals. Buyers like Mike decode everything. Plant, freight, incentives before test rides. It's not distrust, it's survival. Knowledge spreads faster than sales pitches, and mystery, once a dealer's weapon, is now the rider's shield. Even if the sticker made sense, the bank started saying no. Credit compression. 2 years ago, financing a touring Harley at 5% interest was easy if your credit looked decent. Now the same loan hovers near 9%, and approvals come slower than winter in Minnesota. Lenders who once chased powersport business have tightened their belts. Repossession numbers rising in the used segment made them cautious. Credit desks see the pattern every day. Fewer approvals, smaller loans, more trade-ins upside down. Inside the office of Midwest Motor Sales, credit manager Dan Kelly flips through applications and shakes his head. It's not that folks suddenly forgot how to pay, he says. It's that the numbers don't work anymore. When payments jump $200 a month compared to last year, enthusiasm dries up. He's watched good customers walk away, muttering that they'll wait for the next downturn to buy used. That downturn, of course, has already arrived. Rising rates do more than stall sales. They flood the market with barely ridden bikes. Riders who financed in late 2023 now owe more than auction value. Some trade early, others surrender keys, feeding repos into already glutted lanes. It's a brutal loop. Higher rates breed defaults, defaults swell supply, values sink, lenders tighten again. Dan, watching approval charts plunge like ski slopes, sees dreams freeze midair. You can sell the dream all day, he says, but if the paper won't clear, that dream never leaves the lot. The throttle's open, but the money's gone. Inside Milwaukee, the swagger turned into a survival plan. Signals from Milwaukee. The talk around headquarters has changed tone. For years, leadership meetings brimmed with words like momentum, expansion, and heritage strength. This spring, the language softened to discipline, focus, and inventory alignment. In corporate speak, that means trouble. When insiders start discussing aligning shipments to demand, it's code for slowing production without saying the word slowdown. In late April, longtime CEO Jochen Zeitz announced his retirement after steering the company through turbulent years. His exit landed quietly in the press but echoed loudly inside the network. Dealers read between the lines. Leadership transitions rarely happen when everything's fine. Investors noticed too. Earnings calls, once heavy on celebration, turned cautious. Guidance for the rest of the year was withdrawn, officially due to tariff uncertainty, unofficially because nobody wanted to project bad news before summer riding season. Press releases projected confidence, but on the ground it felt like damage control. One veteran Illinois dealer said, "When Milwaukee goes quiet, we get nervous." Focus shifted from innovation to inventory, growth to survival. Internal memos urged dealers to move stock before ordering more. At the plants, weekend shifts vanished, overtime froze, supply runs shrank. Nothing screamed panic, but every whisper hinted caution. For riders, it showed in fewer colors, trims, and launches. The fanfare was gone. Harley wasn't roaring. It was bracing, tightening its belt, hoping the market would catch its breath first. But the first thing to crack on the street wasn't a balance sheet. It was pride. And numbers can fall, reliability can't. So grab proven kits in the description. When the badge lost its power. For decades, that bar and shield badge carried weight. It wasn't just metal on a tank, it was proof that you'd made it, that your garage held something real. But in 2025, that pride is starting to slip. The flood of like-new bikes has flattened the price curve and stripped the badge of its old armor. When every small-town dealer has a half-dozen street glides begging for offers, rarity becomes an illusion. The logo doesn't sell itself anymore, the numbers do. Mike owns two bikes, a 2013 Road King and a 90s Goldwing he bought for under $4,000. The Harley turns heads, but the Wing wins miles. On a cross-state run, it pulled 38 miles per gallon without complaint, while the Harley drank oil and fuel. Function per dollar, it's no contest. The badge that once earned a $5,000 premium now struggles to justify half. Listings tell the truth. Road Kings under $10,000 unsold, while Japanese tourers vanish overnight. Buyers aren't chasing heritage anymore. They're chasing logic. The Harley name still matters, but only when price meets performance. And every dollar shaved at retail lands first on a dealer's ledger. Dealers on the edge. When the price floor falls, dealers feel it before anyone else. Each unsold bike is a payment waiting to be made, and each markdown is a small wound that doesn't heal. In the last 6 months, dealership closures have quietly increased across the Midwest and South. It's not dramatic, just steady attrition. One shop in Kansas closed after 50 years. Another in Alabama merged under new ownership. The signs change, but the story doesn't. Rising costs, soft sales, and too many bikes chasing too few buyers. Jim, a dealer from Ohio, finally called it quits in February. He'd been through recessions before, but this one felt different. I could handle low sales, he said, but not watching the value of my whole floor vanish in 3 months. His building now bears a new nameplate under the same roof, the floor rebranded for multi-line imports. What used to be a Harley shrine now shares space with Japanese cruisers and European adventure bikes. Jim doesn't hate it, he just calls it the sign of the times. For surviving dealers, pressure never stops. Factory shipments keep arriving, freight bills stack up, and interest burns daily. Many turn service bays into lifeboats, patching leaks with maintenance work, while others push apparel, hoping hoodies cover rent. The irony stings. An American legend surviving on t-shirts. Across town, competitors chase the same shrinking crowd, a game of musical chairs with fewer seats each season. Headquarters preaches patience, but dealers read the truth in morning ledgers. Columns bleeding red, margins razor thin, and faith wearing down like old rubber. Survival isn't about sales anymore. It's about lasting until the next sunrise. Past the sales floor, the line itself started to go quiet. The line slows down. Inside the factory, the sound of steady welding used to be comfort. Sparks flew, compressors hummed, and shifts rolled one into the next without pause. This summer, the rhythm broke. Second shifts vanished. Overtime disappeared. Crews that once stayed late to keep up with demand now clock out early to save costs. For the first time in years, workers are sent home before sundown. Tom, a welder with 25 years on the line, stands by his station as the lights dim. You can tell when something's wrong by how quiet it gets, he says. Around him, crates sit half full, suppliers cut orders, and trucking contracts stall. The silence spreads beyond the gates. Down the road, the diner that once fed 3 shifts now serves 1. Tips shrink, smiles fade, gas pumps slow, and the parts shop locks up early. What began as a production pause becomes a pulse fading through an entire town. Steel, coffee, and pride all idling together. Management calls it a production adjustment. The town calls it a warning. For communities built around these factories, the line slowing down isn't just a financial hit, it's emotional. Pride fades when work does. The sound of machines used to mean life here. Now it means uncertainty. Riders didn't wait for promises, they changed the playbook. If you want real updates before the headlines spin them, make sure you're subscribed, because when the next wave hits, you'll want the truth before the dealers admit it. The spreadsheet revolt. Mike has always loved the hunt. Now it's become an art form. With dealers desperate and information everywhere, he turned his experience into an advantage. He studies auction data, tracks month-end reports, and cross-checks VINs before even calling a salesman. He knows when the incentives reset, when dealers panic to hit quotas, and which states quietly discount to move old stock. The internet didn't kill the motorcycle sale, it handed the smart buyer the keys. Last month, Mike helped a friend land a near-new touring bike for over $3,000 under asking. They timed it perfectly. Quarter's end, dealer deep in the buyout, red. Armed with cash and auction data, Mike educated, not pressured, and walked out victorious. Across forums, riders now share spreadsheets once guarded like secrets. Knowledge flows faster than sales pitches, and power has shifted. Mike calls it buying like a banker. Track floor plan dates, watch desperation, and strike clean. It's not rebellion, it's survival. The badge may fade, but smart riders still outthink the market, turning information into their strongest throttle. And that opened a window most riders only see once a decade. The buyer's window. There's a rare moment unfolding in 2025 that riders like Mike haven't seen in decades. It's the intersection of 4 forces: overproduction, soft retail, tariff confusion, and tightening credit, all colliding to open a small window for the patient and the prepared. For once, the advantage doesn't belong to the dealer, the factory, or the lender. It belongs to the rider with cash in hand and time to move. Mike's been planning his next trip for months, not for a vacation, but for a deal. He spotted a 2024 Road Glide listed $3,000 under book in Texas. Another twin sitting unsold in Tennessee, both from dealers who need to free up floor plan space before next quarter. He's ready to fly out, shake hands, sign the title, and ride home. The airfare costs less than the difference in price, and the journey becomes part of the story. Fly and ride, he says, beats paying extra for a trailer queen. When an industry built on momentum stalls, cash buyers become kings. Factories can't store bikes forever, dealers can't pay endless interest, and banks tighten faster than bolts on a touring rack. The same system that crushed retail prices now rewards those with nerve and liquidity. Still, Mike knows bargains can bite back. A deal too sweet often hides its toll: maintenance, resale, or shifting tides. His defense is patience and clarity. He studies viands, warranty fine print, and auction trends like a service manual. He's not chasing trophies, he's chasing reason, proving wisdom still beats hype in any market. But cheap today can haunt your wallet tomorrow. The resale shadow. Every market crash leaves behind a shadow, and for motorcycles, that shadow is resale. Once wholesale lanes reset, they pull everything else down with them. It's like gravity. Slow, steady, and absolute. Even when the flood recedes, the floor stays lower than before. Appraisers call it the anchor effect. One bad season of auction prints can shape trade values for the next 4 quarters. Lena, an appraiser in the Midwest, puts it plainly: "We don't price hope, we price history. If road glides cleared $8,000 in May, that sticks through September." Those wholesale prints anchor everything, dragging retail and private sales down until true scarcity resets the curve. For riders, it means adapting. No more quick flips or spring. Rebounds. The smart play is to buy what you love, ride it, and hold it. Keep it clean, keep it running, and stop chasing resale myths. The market may crawl for 2 years, but real riders measure value in miles, not margins. Mike understands this better than most. His Road King isn't an asset, it's an ally. He doesn't mind holding because he buys for miles, not margins. He knows that today's bargain might look like tomorrow's baseline, and that's fine. For real riders, the ride is the return. Meanwhile, boardrooms and union halls rewrite the map to stop the bleed. Factories, unions, and the reset plan. Behind the scenes, the corporate gears are turning just as hard as the ones in the bikes themselves. Milwaukee, Kansas City, York, all are under review. The new language floating around headquarters sounds tidy: SKU simplification, regional realignment, pricing optimization. But in plain English, it means fewer models, fewer options, and tighter control. The company wants to rebuild scarcity by cutting excess. One regional rep leaked an internal memo showing how it works. 10 trim lines shrink to 6. Chrome packages that used to be optional now become standard, with the cost quietly folded into the MSRP. Freight and setup fees, once broken out, get baked into the sticker so they disappear from the fine print. It's not deception, it's survival. Simplify the books, slow production, and let time balance what the market couldn't. With second shifts fading, unions push for hour guarantees to keep families afloat. Everyone remembers 2009 when idled plants hollowed out towns, so compromises form: shorter runs, rotating crews, longer maintenance gaps. Across the Atlantic, rising tariffs force redistribution. More domestic builds, fewer imports, smaller batches. The reset is quiet but real. On paper, it's strategy. On the ground, it's survival. Of paychecks, pride, and legacy. A spreadsheet can't measure what it means to see factory lights still glowing at dusk or to hear a V-twin echo through the lot, reminding everyone why they keep building. In the end, the spreadsheet won't decide what kept us riding. Heritage on the line. When the math fades, what's left is the reason we started riding in the first place. Not for resale, not for charts or forecasts, but for the road itself. Mike sits on his porch, polishing the same Road King that's carried him through 20 states and 2 decades. The paint is faded near the bags, the grips worn smooth, the exhaust blued from heat and time. But it still starts with one confident roar, a sound that erases every number ever written in a boardroom. Mike thinks back to his father's shovelhead days, bikes that leaked oil but carried heart. Back then, riding wasn't about cost per mile, it was about proving something to yourself. Somewhere along the line, the industry forgot that, chasing quarterly reports instead of miles. But the road never forgot. His bike runs because he keeps it alive. Old tools, steady hands, quiet pride. He rides because freedom doesn't come from a showroom, it comes from motion. The badge may fade, markets may dip, but the spirit that built it still burns in those who ride, fix, and remember what matters. They said the market would hold. The street told the truth. Ride smart, hold long, and let the miles do the talking. They told us the Harley name would always hold its value, that loyalty alone could beat the market. But the road doesn't care about promises, it only reveals truth. What we're seeing isn't the end of Harley, it's the end of denial. The real riders, the ones who wrench, ride, and remember, will survive this storm. Because markets crash, trends fade, and factories forget. But the road never lies. Ride smart, ride proud, and let the miles write the next chapter. The market's changing fast, but real riders adapt. If you want the truth before the headlines twist it, hit subscribe, like this video, and drop a comment below with what you're seeing at your local dealer. Are prices really tanking where you are, or holding steady? Ride smart, ride proud, and I'll see you in the next one.